Hey guys, welcome back. This is the story about what if Naruto had the Jougan. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well, it really means a lot. So let's start the what if. 3 days had passed since the fight with the Hibi-Sannin, Orochimaru. In all that time, neither Sasuke nor Naruto had woken up. Sakura was beside herself with worry, she had no idea what to do for either boy. Sasuke had a fever and looked as if he was in constant pain. Naruto was dead to the world, the only indication that he was still alive was the movement of his chest as he shallowly breathed. The only other indication he gave that he was still amongst the living was the pain he seemed to be in whenever she touched his right arm, which was why the scorch marks he'd received on that arm were still there. Both of her boys were as alright as they could be, and hopefully, it would be enough. Sakura wasn't faring very well though. Thus far she'd managed to evade the other teams still out in the forest, as well as avoid detection thus far. However, she was becoming more and more exhausted. She was desperate to protect the both of them, like they had protected her. Naruto was the brave one, the hero, even if no one realized it yet. He'd taken on 2 of Orochimaru's snakes and the Hibi-Sannin single-handedly and nearly beat him because the Sannin underestimated Naruto and the fury of the Jougan. Sasuke was on fire when he finally snapped out of the spell the Sannin had put him under. He fought just as fiercely as Naruto, but in the end the result was the same and both were beaten soundly, no pun intended, though Orochimaru didn't leave without injury caused not by Sasuke, but by Naruto. She had little doubt that even if they had all worked in tandem, instead of both boys fighting the Sannin one-on-one while she watched, that they'd have still lost. She still wasn't sure if she could believe it. Even though she had witnessed the transformation Naruto had been undergoing, it was still difficult to reconcile the boy who was loud, obnoxious and always bugging her for dates with the brave, powerful, young Nin who had faced down a Sannin. But, it came with a price, as it seemed the jutsu did a lot of damage to his right arm, damage that Kyuubi was not repairing, whether it chose not to or just couldn't, either way Naruto's arm would be usable for quite some time if it ever to be used again. The exhausted Kunoichi began to slowly nod off. Over 72 hours straight with no sleep would do that to a person. She tried with all her might, but she just couldn't keep her eyes open. In an effort to keep awake, she replaced the cold rag she had won Sasuke's forehead. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw quick movements scurrying about. Reacting instinctively she threw a kunai with expert precision that would have impressed both Haku and Sasuke. She had just barely missed a scampering squirrel. Terrified, the squirrel scampered away. Seemingly unknowns to the pink-haired Kunoichi, a trio of Otonins were watching her every move. One with spiky hair turned to the one whose head was wrapped in bandages with the exception of one eye. "Do you think she saw the exploding tag?" he asked in low tones. "She's exhausted, so it's doubtful, but it would be unwise to underestimate her, Zaku," said the on-eye. "What can a pathetic little girl like that do?" "You worry too much, Dosu," said the brunette girl of the group. "A weak opponent can always take down an overconfident one, no matter how much stronger or more skilled they are if they allow themselves to lower their guard," reprimanded Dosu. "Whatever, I say we toss aside the little girl and dispose of the Uchiha like Orochimaru-sama ordered us to," the girl replied. "All in good time, have patience kin," Dosu told her. "Why? They're weak and she's tired, the timing couldn't be any more perfect," snapped Zaku. "And that's why I'm the leader, Baka," Dosu snapped back. "Go charging in there and whatever traps she may have set that you blatantly ignored will cut you down in moments. Worry not, we shall make our move soon enough, as you said before, the other 2 are weak and she's exhausted, they aren't going anywhere from quite some time." Meanwhile, Haruno Sakura was nodding off on watch. Her emerald eyes slowly drooping lower and lower. She had nearly passed out from pure exhaustion when a chuckle and a cold voice sliced through the air. "Not sleeping and keeping watch all this time. That can't be healthy." Sakura gasped and jumped a bit in surprise. She quickly spun around and saw the Otonins that had attacked Kabuto before the written exam. "Wake up Sasuke-kun," the Oni Nin ordered Sakura. "We want to fight him." What do you mean? Why are you attacking us? She demanded, her hand shakily reaching for a kunai. Is Orochimaru behind this? None of the three Nins could hide their surprise. So he is behind this. What's with the strange mark on Sasuke-kun's neck? You still want to fight him even after all that has been done to him? She asked scathingly. Well then, with her talking down to us like that, we just can't ignore it now, can we? The spiky-haired one asked with a confident smirk. I'll kill both the weakling girl and that Sasuke guy. As he stood up, Sakura tensed, ready to defend her boys from the Otonins, though as long as she'd been awake she truly wasn't in any condition to fight. Wait, Zaku, ordered the Cyclops. Why? Zaku inquired. The Cyclops didn't answer, he merely took a few steps forward. How completely unoriginal, he sarcastically scolded Sakura, the color of the dirt indicates that it was recently dug up. Some of this grass doesn't even grow here. Sakura flinched as the one-eyed Nin revealed her trap. There's no point to a trap if it wasn't well made. Zaku laughed behind him. Ah, so she threw the kunai to keep the squirrel from setting off the trap. Let's kill her quickly, the leader suggested as he, Zaku and the female Nin jumped into the air over Sakura's trap. Sakura smirked and drew a kunai cutting a nearby string, setting off a second trap. The Cyclops looked up. A log. So this was the real trap. No use. He placed his hand out and as he touched the log he made a one-handed seal and the log exploded into pieces. Easy, no talent whatsoever. Sakura's eyes widened as the three Otonins drew closer. She stood ready on her feet, her entire body shaking with exhaustion, determined to protect her teammates. Konoha de Zenpu, came an excited shout. A spinning green blur knocked all three off of their trajectory path. Sakura closed her eyes instinctively. When she opened them again she was greeted with the sight of Rock Lee standing in between herself and the Otonins taking his Goken stance. You three obviously do not have much talent either. You will have to work much harder. Who are you? Demanded the Oni Nin. I am Konoha's beautiful blue beast. Lee said with a determined look on his face, never once taking his gaze off of his new opponents. Rock Lee. What are you doing here? Asked Sakura. I shall appear anytime you are in danger, Lee answered. Sakura looked confused, but you are our enemy, she said taking a quick glance at where Naruto and Sasuke lay. I told you before, Lee explained, I shall protect you to the death. Thank you. She whispered. It appears we have no other choice, said the Oni Nin as he pulled out an earth scroll. Zaku, I leave Sasuke-kun to you. I'll take care of these two. He then threw the scroll at Zaku before he pulled his sleeve up revealing a metal bracer that ran from his wrist to his elbow with various holes in it and charged. Sakura threw a kunai at him, which he dodged as Rock Lee punched the ground and pulled a huge clump of earth from out of the ground. I can tell there is some sort of trick to your attack, but I will not fall victim to it, said Rock Lee as the Cyclops looked surprised at the boy's intuitiveness and strength. They stood there staring at each other when Lee began to unwrap his bandages. Sakura instantly recognized what he was doing as she had seen Lee almost do the same thing to Sasuke. The Otonin charged at Lee again. He disappeared, the Oni Nin said as his eye widened. Kage Bio. Lee said, kicking him into the air. Lee then appeared behind him. I'm not done yet. The Otonin began to panic and struggle as Lee's bandages began to bind him. They began to descend, head first, to the ground. Not good. He can't break his fall like that, shouted Zaku. He then started doing hand seals. Take this, shouted Lee, Omote Renge, front lotus. Zaku put his hands to the ground as Lee slammed the leader Otonin into the ground. Just in time, he said with a cocky smile. The leader then got up from the small crater Rock Lee left him in. No way! Lee shouted. Such a terrifying move, said the Cyclops Otonin dazed, even though I landed in the soft ground, it still hurt like hell. My turn, he said, pulling up his sleeve. He charged Lee, but did not land a blow. Lee, however, was still affected. "Lee-san," shouted Sakura. "You're definitely fast on your feet, but even you can't outrun my attack," said Dosa confidently. "The speed of sound is far greater than you can hope to imagine. You can't get everything through hard work." Lee dropped to his knees. He tried to stand, but was unsuccessful, and as soon as he did, he slumped back down and had thrown up as his ear began to bleed. "Dodging will not help you avoid my attacks. Even though you dodged my fist, the sound still affected you," he said with a small chuckle. "Tell me, what is sound?" "Vibrations," answered Sakura automatically. "Exactly," he said, "when you hear something, your eardrums pick up on the vibrations of a sound. The eardrums will shatter at anything over 150 decibels. It also goes without saying that a person will also lose their sense of balance." The Cyclops chuckled. "It will be quite some time before you're able to move." "That's right, simple taijutsu is ineffective against us," gloated Zaku. "It may have gotten a few lucky shots in for a while, but it is nothing compared to our techniques. From here on, things won't be the smooth ride you'd thought it would be. I control supersonic waves and air pressure. I'm even capable of destroying rocks and boulders. As you can see, I can also send air waves through the ground, softening it, making it a cushion. It's far different from anything you'll be able to come up with." "Damn it," thought Lee. "Your next, little girl," the leader shouted, running past Lee, straight for Sakura. Sakura was shocked from the shift in the attack that she didn't have time to counter, not that she could do so effectively in her state of exhaustion. "What?" "Lee-san," shouted Sakura as Lee suddenly appeared between them. "Konoha de Zenpuf," shouted Lee, but he was unable to complete his attack as the Otonin caught his leg. "Looks like my last attack is still affecting you. You caught me off guard, but you still couldn't complete your combo," he said as he swung a fist at Lee. Rock Lee blocked the attack. "My arm amplifies sound that is generated inside of it like a speaker. Through use of my chakra, I can redirect the direction in which the sound waves travel and still hit my target." Lee screamed in pain as Sakura called his name again. "All that's left is to finish you off. I won't let you," shouted Sakura as she threw multiple kunai at Lee's opponent, which were blocked by the sound amplifier on his arm. "I can still fight." She then threw multiple shuriken at him, only to have them intercepted by a small wave of air pressure from his spiky-haired comrade. Sakura was then knocked off her feet when the third Otonin grabbed a handful of her hair. Your hair is far glossier than mine," she said to Sakura. "You should train more if you have time to take care of your hair that good. Trying to look all sexy for the boys? Zaku, kill that Sasuke kid in front of this wench." "Gladly," he replied. "I won't let you," Sakura said through clenched teeth. She stifled a grunt of pain as the brunette pulled her hair harder to hold her back. "Shut up and don't move," she ordered Sakura. Zaku smirked. "Let's do this then." He strutted confidently over to where Sasuke and Naruto lay. Sakura drew a kunai. "What's the point of that?" "You can't attack me from where you are," the Oto kunoichi told her. Sakura turned her head towards the other kunoichi as best she could. "I won't be the one being protected this time." Much to everyone's shock, Sakura then took the kunai and sliced a good portion of her long hair off. "They always fought to protect me, Sasuke, Naruto, even Lee. They've fought with everything they could to do so. But this time I won't be a burden," she said, standing up. "I will protect them with everything I have." Sakura's eyes took on a hardened glint that had never been seen in her soft emerald eyes, giving them a sort of unseen glow in them. She seemed to be channeling Naruto in that brief moment. "Sakura," Lee said as he struggled, in vain, to pull himself off the ground. "Kin, kill her," Zaku shouted as Sakura started doing hand seals. The female Otonin, Kin, charged Sakura, stabbing her in the back, only to find herself stabbing a log with her kunai. "Kawarimi," Kin shouted in surprise. "Kin, stay back," shouted Zaku as Sakura reappeared charging at him. She then threw various kunai and shuriken at him. Zankaha, slicing sound wave. He pointed both hands towards the Konoha Kunoichi. Her throwing weapons were reflected back at her and she crossed her arms to block the attack as she disappeared in another puff of smoke. The log she replaced herself was warped from Zaku's attack as well as having been struck with a large number of her own weapons. "It's still not going to work," he told the girl as she appeared above him. He threw some kunai at her and then looked around to where she would reappear next, only to find her still descending upon him with a kunai stuck in her left arm and another in her right leg. Shit! She stabbed the kunai deep into his flesh, but he managed to block with, so she only injured his arm. "Damn it!" Zaku shouted as he kicked her off of him. She grabbed onto him viciously, attacking, clawing at the Otonin's face and even going as far as to bite him. Zaku became enraged and started to viciously pummel the pink-haired Kunoichi. "I'll kill you," he said right before a particularly vicious punch. Her face was bloody, cut and bruised in various places. She pulled another kunai to stab the shinobi again, but he managed to catch her wrist and redirected her arm, thrusting the kunai into the ground. He rolled on top of her, intent on killing her. "I will not let you harm them," she shouted as she flipped him over her head. She rolled onto her stomach and tried to stand only to find herself too exhausted. "Damn it!" she cursed. Exhaustion was taking over, the adrenaline rush she felt coming on slowly fading. Zaku got up, pulling the kunai from his arm and doing as few hand seals. Before he could complete the sequence, she charged him again, slamming into him hard. Before she could move, Kin kicked her in the side of the head, knocking her towards Sasuke and Naruto. "I will protect them," she shouted defiantly. "Ha! You can barely move. What makes you think you can keep me from killing each one of them right in front of you one by one?" taunted Zaku. "Say your prayers, bitch." As he ran through his hand seals again, ready to finish her off, when three others appeared in front of Sakura. Under other circumstances, Sakura would hate who had come to her rescue, but at this point she couldn't have been happier. "Ino. I just couldn't let you have all the fun," replied Ino. "Besides, I can't just let you win over Sasuke-kun by letting you play the heroine, and you and Naruto still owe me an explanation." "They're like cockroaches," commented the leading Otonin. "Just what the hell were you two thinking, just interfering in a fight like this?" Choji yelled at Shikamaru and Ino. "Troublesome as it is. It's even more troublesome if we don't help them out," Shikamaru said lazily. "Since Ino decided to step in, we, as men, just can't run away." "Besides, we're a three-man team," replied Ino. "There isn't anything we can't do together." "But I'm not ready to die just yet," Choji pleaded as he tried to get away, only to be held in place by Shikamaru. "Shut up. We can't help that now," shouted Shikamaru. Zaku laughed at the big-boned guy's actions. "Go ahead and run if you'd like, fatty." Both Ino and Shikamaru gasped and took a step back, the latter instantly letting go of Choji's scarf as if he had been burned. Choji, on the other hand, stopped trying to run. "What did he say?" Choji asked in a menacing low whisper. "I'm not sure I heard him correctly." "I said you can go jack off in the woods for all I care, fat ass," shouted Zaku. "I'm not fat. I'm big-boned," shouted Choji, turning around abruptly. "Now it's a fight for honor of Konoha and big-boned people everywhere. Hurerade for big-boned people." Ino smirked. "Now you've made him angry." "Troublesome," said the Nara, shaking his head. "Sakura," Ino said suddenly, "take care of those two, all right? The Ino Shikacho team is going to fight with everything we have." "Baika no Jutsu, multi-size technique," shouted Choji as he ballooned out to an incredible size. "Nikuden Sha, human bullet tank." Choji's limbs and head receded into the big-boned guy's body as jets of steam streamed out from where each appendage disappeared to. He then began to spin at a very rapid velocity. "What the hell?" Zaku said, placing his hands out in front of him. "Zankaha, he shouted, streams of air slamming straight into Choji's gargantuan body. They were at a standstill until Zaku got frustrated and put more power into his jutsu. Choji then shot up into the air only to start rapidly descending on the spiky-haired Otonin. Damn it! Because of his spinning, my jutsu is ineffective. The leader saw Zaku's predicament and ran to save his partner. Shikamaru decided to step in at this point. I don't think so. Kageme no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Technique. The Nara boy's shadow lanced out to capture the Otonin's shadow, holding him in place. Kageme's success. Meanwhile, Zaku was just barely able to dodge Choji's attack. Dosu! What the hell are you doing? Shouted Kin when she saw him not doing anything. Ino, take care of the woman, ordered Shikamaru. No problem, Shika, replied Ino, just take care of my body. Shintenshin no Jutsu. Shikamaru caught Ino as she slumped to the ground. Choji had Zaku boxed in with no escape in sight. Kin! What are you doing? Shouted Zaku. What's wrong? Asked Dosu. Kin/Ino then held a kunai to her throat. This is it. If you move, she's dead. Unless you want us to do lasting harm to you guys, you'd better drop your scroll and go, she ordered them. Once we feel that you're a good distance away, we'll then release her. Zaku's response was to attack his teammate. Choji, shouted Kin/Ino. Choji intercepted the attack, taking the brunt of the damage, but Kin was sent flying back into the tree behind her. Ino's body started bleeding. Ino, shouted Shikamaru. Choji had returned to his normal size, his attack expired and he was in no condition to continue the fight. What the hell? They attacked their own teammate. Kin/Ino said as she got up. You took us far too lightly, said Zaku smirking. Our purpose is not some dumb scroll or to even make it through the exam, added Dosu, it's Sasuke-kun. Shikamaru's shadow then receded back to him, releasing Dosu. Ah, I see your jutsu has a set time limit, observed the newly freed Dosu, and the girl's jutsu. Judging from the blood, if we kill Kin, she dies as well. You'd kill your own teammate? Asked Shikamaru, surprised. If we have to, said Zaku, raising his head towards Kin. I have to admit though. You almost had us. However, you let your guard down, Dosu informed them. Disgusting, said another voice, one Sakura remembered as the pale-eyed kid who had confronted Sasuke the day before the second exam started, Hyuga Niji, the teammate of the girl Naruto trained with, and Rock Lee. Simple Otonins waving around their victory by beating a bunch of second-rate shinobi like them. Lee, shouted the girl, 10-10, if Sakura remembered correctly. Looks like he underestimated them, said Niji, seemingly unconcerned for his teammate who was currently unconscious. Where do they keep coming from? Asked Zaku. They're like pesky bugs you just can't get rid of. The kid in green is our teammate, and it looks like you went just a little too far, replied Niji as his pale lavender eyes turned white and the veins around his eye bulged, intimidating everyone in the area who was conscious, with the exception of 10-10. Niji then turned his head in surprise as he felt a huge chakra spike. Niji, asked 10-10. Quit showing off and fight us, demanded Dosu. Niji smirked, it looks like I'll no longer have to. That's when everyone else felt it. A sickly, powerful aura saturated the air around them as Sasuke was doused in purple chakra. He abruptly stood up. Sasuke-kun. You're awake. Sakura said excitedly before becoming afraid. As Sasuke slowly stood, the purple chakra swirled around him. That's Sasuke-kun, said Kin/Ino, afraid of what had become of her longtime crush. Mysterious markings now ran down the Uchiha's left arm and the left side of his face. Only Niji seemed unafraid of the new transformation. Sakura. Who did that to you? The cursed seal. Dosu gasped. Sasuke-kun. Those markings. Sakura began before being interrupted by Sasuke. Don't worry, I can feel the power surging inside of me, said Sasuke confidently. I'm stronger than I was before, and it's all because of him. I'm an Avenger, I will gain power by any means necessary, even at the cost of my own soul. I see. Dosu observed, the markings she mentioned earlier was Orochimaru-sama's own cursed seal. I can't believe he was able to survive. Who's Sakura? Who did this to you? Sasuke demanded angrily. I did, said Zaku proudly. Sasuke turned his gaze towards the Otonin, his two-tomo Sharingan spinning wildly. Ino, get out of there, shouted Shikamaru. The blonde Kunoichi immediately complied as Kin's body slumped to the ground. Choji, hide, now. Shikamaru, what's going on? Asked Choji. I don't know. He answered. Sasuke's markings spread to cover his entire body. This is too much for us, we must leave now, said Dosu to Zaku. Whatever. He was half dead just a few minutes ago, said Zaku going through some hand seals. Zaku, stop. You don't understand. I'll kill them all, shouted Zaku, Zenkakyakua, ultrasonic air slice. Everyone had to cover their faces as Zaku's jutsu struck Sasuke. Blown to pieces. Who was? Asked someone from behind Zaku. His eyes widened in realization as he was knocked off his feet across the clearing. Zaku, shouted Dosu, but Sasuke was already attacking again. Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu. Several fireballs were streaming at Zaku. Too easy. Zenkaha, he shouted, overpowering the fireballs. Unfortunately for him, there were shuriken within the fireballs and Zaku found himself getting sliced up pretty good, though he wasn't struck in any vital area. Before anyone could say or do anything, Zaku found himself doubled over, Sasuke's foot in the center of his back, his arms behind held fast behind him, by the Uchiha. This can't be Sasuke-kun. Ino said in denial, what's happened to him? Sasuke smirked, you seem awfully proud of these arms. He began to apply pressure, the bones in Zaku's arms began to crack and break. Stop. Stop it, please. Zaku yelled out in pain. Sasuke began to pull harder, as Zaku's screams became more frequent, until there was finally 2 loud snaps of Sasuke crippling Zaku's arms. Sasuke then kicked Zaku down to the ground like common trash, before turning towards Dosu. I guess it's only you left. You had better be much more entertainment than the other guy, said Sasuke, still smirking sinisterly at the shaking Dosu. Sasuke-kun. Stop. Sakura finally yelled out, embracing the Uchiha in a full hug, tears streaming down her face. Stop, please. Sasuke glared at her for a moment before the markings receded. Ino had never been more afraid in her entire life, save for the mysterious energy she had felt 3 days prior. Sasuke then collapsed to his knees and then moved to a sitting position, breathing heavily. You're strong, we cannot defeat you, said Dosu, their team's scroll now in his hand as he had taken it back from Zaku. How about you just let us go? For now, he said, putting down the scroll slowly. I must check on some things first, but I promise you, should we face each other once more, I promise we will neither run nor hide. Wait. What has Orochimaru done to Sasuke-kun? Demanded Sakura. And why Sasuke-kun? I do not know, we were ordered to kill him, said Dosu, he then left with his teammates. Hey, you guys alright? Asked Choji to Sakura and Sasuke. Ino, take care of that Lee guy, ordered Shikamaru as he and Choji made their way over to Team Kakashi. Such abnormal chakra. This strange power is far beyond my knowledge, thought Niji, observing everything from above. What happened to Naruto? Asked Shikamaru, seeing Naruto's burnt arm upon noticing, for the first time, that Naruto seemed to have lost his trenchcoat, shirt, right wristband and headband. They also noticed what seemed to be a cut on his forehead. Hey, Sakura, Sasuke, just what have you guys been up to? Sasuke seemed to be a bit shaken up with the way events had transpired. So it was up to Sakura to answer. Ino, who was carrying over Rock Lee, looked over to Naruto and gasped in shock. We were attacked by a guy named Orochimaru. Naruto and Sasuke-kun fought him, but he was able to beat them both, even after Naruto used his new technique," she answered, not knowing what all to say about everything that happened. Shikamaru looked at Naruto's arm intently. "Naruto's jutsu. How long ago did he use it?" "We encountered Orochimaru on the first day of the exams." "Why?" asked Sakura curiously. Ino turned pale. "How?" "That power was immense. No ordinary genin could be capable of anything like that. I've never been normal, no matter how much I wish I was," said Naruto weakly, as he slowly sat up. "I haven't felt this weak since Wave Country." Everyone jumped at the sound of his unexpected reply. "What the heck was that weird chakra I felt a few minutes ago?" "Naruto," yelled Sakura. "You're finally awake." "How long was I out this time?" asked Naruto. The other genins had to wonder just what Team 7 had been up to for one of their members to be constantly knocked unconscious for extended periods of time. "You and Sasuke-kun were out for 3 days, said Sakura. "I was so worried about you too." "What happened after I passed out?" he asked. "I brought you and Sasuke-kun here, and watched over you two until we were attacked by Otonins sent by Orochimaru," said Sakura. "Are you okay, Sakura-chan?" asked Naruto. "I'll be fine." "Sasuke?" she asked the silent Uchiha heir. "Ichin. I'll be fine," he said to her. "Sakura-chan. What? What happened to your hair?" asked Naruto. Sasuke looked up to see what Naruto was talking about. Sakura ran her fingers through her hair, sighing, "Well, I figured I was due for a change. After all, long hair just gets in the way when we're in a place like this," she answered. Naruto seemed to accept that answer. "Alright, Naruto, Sakura, you two have some explaining," said Ino in an annoyed tone. Sakura looked half annoyed, half worried as she looked at Naruto, who was confused about the whole ordeal. "I'm sorry, Naruto," said Sakura. "I've been meaning to tell you that Ino saw it right before you took out the Otonin before the first exam, and again when you managed to get behind that Enko lady and that other Nin." Everyone noticed the hesitation but decided to ignore it for now. "Sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but there just hasn't been time." "That's okay, Sakura-chan," said Naruto as he turned towards Ino. He knew it would be more trouble than it was worth to tell her to piss off like he first wanted to. He realized that that option may only make things worse, so he'd answer a few of her questions. "Shikamaru, Choji, help me up." He regretted those words as soon as Choji grabbed his right arm. Shooting pains traveled up his right arm with great intensity. "Damn it," he cursed in pain. "Whatever you did, you have effectively made that arm unusable," said Niji, his Byakugan active. "The chakra pathways in your arm don't even exist anymore." Naruto closed his eyes, remembering what had transpired to make that arm unusable. Flashback. He then extended his arm towards Orochimaru, palm up. Suddenly, a purplish, black flame appeared in the palm of his hand. "The Jougan may look freakish, but it gives me exactly what I need. In a way. It has a mind of its own and it hates disrespect. Insulting it is not something even I would do." The purplish black flame flickered and grew in size as the tatters of his shirt were blown off and his right wristband incinerated. Naruto smirked, seeing Orochimaru's expressions of surprise and fear. "This power. It's impossible to control. Once I release it, I have no say. I have the power to pull you into oblivion. I assume just my right arm will do. Kenjutsu, Akuten, Muenku no Doragon." Naruto started running at Orochimaru as he brought his arm back and thrust it towards the Hibi Sannin. When Naruto charged at him, Orochimaru expected a variation of the Yandame's Mortal Flame, a close to medium range attack which he could counter easily. What he got was a very powerful mid to long range attack at very short range coming at him. Though he managed to dodge dragon-shaped purplish black flame, he did not escape unscathed as his right arm was caught at the edge of the attack and was nearly completely incinerated, and what was left was badly burned. The right side of his torso and right thigh were also minimally damaged. The tree behind him was completely demolished, and even the kusanagi had been damaged, the hilt partially melted and the blade was scorched. End flashback. Damn it. If I hadn't have missed, you and Sasuke could have gotten us to the tower already, said Naruto furiously as he grabbed onto Choji's shoulder with his left hand and pulled himself up. At least we have both scrolls. What makes you think we're just going to let any of you have those scrolls? The only one capable of fighting on a level on par with my own is the Uchiha, and even then there's still 2 of us and 1 of him. All the rest of you are too tired or too weak, said Neji arrogantly. Don't underestimate me. I may not be able to use my right arm, but I am still able to take you on without a problem, challenged Naruto angrily. Nearly everyone looked like they were wanting to step in before Naruto got hurt, but they didn't want to get in the way of the previous year's Rookie of the Year, Hyuga Neji. What makes you think you stand half a chance? Asked Neji. Without your arm, you can't even mold chakra for any jutsu, and only a Uchiha, a taijutsu master like Gai-sensei, or another Hyuga could hope to keep up with me using taijutsu, and considering your sword hangs on the left side, it's safe to say you're primarily right-handed, meaning your kenjutsu is handicapped as well. How does a dead last loser like you think you can beat me, let alone take me on? You just can't compare to my strength. Ino flinched at his words, as she had said something similar about Naruto before. Nearly everyone was expecting Naruto to charge blindly at Neji for being called a dobe, but his wild charge never came. Instead, he smirked. I'll show you exactly why you shouldn't underestimate your opponent, no matter who they are. Naruto closed his eyes. Team Kakashi, Team Asuma, and Team Guy, minus Lee, who was still out cold, watched in fascination as a seal appeared on Naruto's stomach. Then 5 more symbols representing the 5 elements appeared around the seal just a moment later. Beams of teal-colored light shot out of Naruto's forehead. Ino gasped as the cut on Naruto's forehead opened, revealing a teal glowing eye. The glow subsided, revealing a blue slitted eye. Naruto then opened his eyes, and his 2 normal eyes were slitted as well. What the hell is that? Shouted Ino after the shock began to wear off. It's my own Kekkei Genkai, answered Naruto, a Dojutsu said to rival the Uchiha Sharingan and the Hyuga Byakugan. It's called the Jougan. Neji narrowed his eyes. Tell me, Uzumaki, how did you obtain a Kekkei Genkai said only to belong to Kazama Erasure? Sasuke and Sakura were both shocked to hear Neji say that, but everyone else was confused. Naruto just glared at the Hyuga prodigy, while taking a fighting stance, grasping the hilt of his sword with his left hand. Because I am the Yandame's son, Naruto answered, Kazama Naruto. That bit of information even shocked Neji. Hokage's son or not, you still have little to no talent. Even with such a revered bloodline, you cannot hope to beat me. One cannot go against fate. Naruto closed his eyes again, remembering something Kakashi-sensei had said that his eye could eventually do, with enough training. It would be perfect and totally unexpected, that is, if he could pull it off. Flashback. Alright, Naruto, said Kakashi as he and Naruto stood in the middle of a forest clearing. They would be back in Konoha in about 3 days at their current pace of travel. Today, I'll be teaching you a little bit of what you can do with your eye, should for some reason you're not able to use hand seals whatsoever. This will be an extremely effective tactic if you are ever captured by the enemy or if one or both of your arms is injured severely enough to limit its use. Sasuke was training on activating the Sharingan faster and maintaining it doing the tree walking exercise. When Naruto questioned why he wasn't doing the same, Kakashi had told him that the Jougan required no chakra to keep it active, not that Naruto would have had to worry about chakra exhaustion from keeping it open too long, and it would actually improve Naruto's chakra control, not slightly hinder it due to chakra being focused on both the eyes and feet like both the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Sakura was off training with Haku. The ice-manipulating boy was showing Sakura more herbs that could be used in paralysis poisons as well as a few that could be used in the antidotes of said poisons. She was coming along with her taijutsu as well, as it had improved above that of an academy-level grad student. Naruto was spending more and more time with Kakashi as he was the only one who could actually tell him anything about his new Kekkei Genkai. Kakashi had said there was one other person, but he hadn't been seen around Konoha since the death of the Yandere during the Kyuubi attack. "Your eye has many techniques accessible only to you," said Kakashi. "It affords you the ability for far sight, meaning with enough concentration you can see and hear everything in a fixed area with your Jougan several meters away up to about twice the range as the average Byakugan user can see. You may even be able to see through walls with it as well. The Jougan will also make you immune to most low to mid-level genjutsu as well, though it's never truly been tested against the Sharingan. Also, similar to the Sharingan, you will, in time, be able to hypnotize people and put them under weak genjutsus and possibly even some stronger ones as well, which is something a normal Sharingan cannot do." "What do you mean, normal Sharingan, Kakashi-sensei?" asked Naruto. "A lesson for another time, Naruto," said Kakashi, who gave Naruto a look to drop it for now. "Now, bear in mind, many genjutsu require chakra control that may be well beyond your grasp due to the amount given to you from the Kyuubi. One genjutsu that Arashi-sensei told me about was called the Joganashi Kiku no Jutsu, fear of the evil eye technique, which turns something you fear into your opponent's fear. Unfortunately, you'll have to figure that one out on your own as only another Jougan wielder could actually show you. Another genjutsu you could possibly do was once a favorite of a very powerful man who had visited Konoha before Sandaime-sama became Hokage. It's a C-less jutsu like the Joganashi Kiku, so don't be discouraged if you are unable to do it as it requires a large amount of chakra and control." "What's it called, Kakashi-sensei?" asked Naruto. "It's called Kanashibari no Jutsu, binding hand and foot technique," said Kakashi. "It is a B-rank genjutsu that causes its victim temporary paralysis. One man in Konoha even improved on the technique, calling it Shur no Kumi no Jutsu, death foreseeing technique, which can be found on the forbidden scroll you stole. It shows the victim a gruesome image of their death, causing them to freeze up in fear, and the victim can often suffer from psychological damage, thus why it is listed as an A-rank genjutsu. It is much harder to fight, and takes even more control to master than the original technique, which is why I'll be showing you the Kanashibari only." End flashback. "Ready?" asked Naruto, only his Jougan was open. Neji slipped right into the traditional Jougan, gentle fist, stance, the fighting style of his family, and activated his Byakugan. "Show me what you think you can actually do." "Gladly." Naruto shouted as he opened his eyes. They were blood red, and the iris of the Jougan began to glow brightly around the pupil. "Kanashibari no Jutsu." Naruto charged at Neji, drawing his sword with his left hand. Neji was in for a shock as he realized he couldn't move. "You're dead," Naruto said as he placed the edge of the sword at Neji's throat. Not only was everyone shocked that Naruto actually beat Neji, but he had done so very quickly. No one could speak for some time. "Very well, I concede the scroll to you," Neji said reluctantly, glaring at the blonde. "Thanks," said Naruto as the Jougan quit glowing and his eyes turned back to their normal non-slitted sapphire color. "10-10, wake Lee and let's go, there is no reason for us to remain here," Neji said coolly. 10-10 looked at Naruto with an approving look on her face before she woke Lee. It wasn't long before Lee was on his feet again, having a short conversation with 10-10. "Hey, Lee-san," shouted Sakura. "Yes, Sakura-san," said Lee. "Thank you for helping me," she said sincerely. "I wouldn't have lasted that long without you." "You are welcome, Sakura-san," said Lee. "Sasuke-kun." Sasuke looked at Lee questioningly. "You truly live up to the Uchiha name. You were able to drive back those Otonin, while I lost horribly." Sasuke looked shocked at this information as Lee had handed him his own ass not but 4 days prior. "Sakura-san, the lotus in Konoha blooms twice. Next time we meet, I promise I will be much stronger than I am now." "Hey, Sakura, let me fix your hair," said Ino walking up to her former best friend. Sakura looked Ino over, as if judging her intentions. Finding them genuine, she said goodbye to Lee and walked over to Ino, or she would have if Naruto hadn't collapsed again as soon as Team Guy was out of sight. He was just barely able to support himself on one knee, using his sword as a crutch. Naruto, shouted Sakura. His Jougan was only half open and he looked extremely tired. Sakura. Sometimes you make me jealous. Why? She asked. If I had anywhere near half the chakra control you do, I wouldn't have used up so much chakra on the genjutsu. It was all I could do to keep standing. I actually surprised myself that I was able to run up to him and hold the blade to his neck while holding him in that genjutsu for so long. That was amazing how you beat him, Naruto, Choji congratulated him. Thanks, Choji, but I only beat him because he underestimated me. In my current condition, had he taken me seriously, I wouldn't have stood a chance, Naruto admitted. He won't do it again. Naruto, how did he know about the Jougan? I mean, neither myself nor Sasuke-kun knew about what it was when we first saw it, said Sakura. His clan, answered Sasuke. Most clans educate their members on the abilities of other Kekkei Genkais and clan jutsus. When I was younger I had to learn of the Hyuga Byakugan, the Aburame's Kekkeichu, and even about some of the tactics utilized by the past Inoshikacho groups. My brother mentioned something about an Inuzuka being paired up with one of us during the war against Iwa, but I never paid much attention. He was probably tutored on the abilities of possible opponents he might face later on. Since the Yandere was dead, with no known family, I suppose our clan didn't think the Jougan would be a threat, though it seems like the Hyuga were prepared just in case there were others with that particular Kekkei Genkai. Shikamaru scowled. Then that means he let Naruto win. What do you mean, Shika? Asked Ino. Simple, it's well known what the Byakugan and the Sharingan are generally capable of, varying only with the talent of that particular user, but Naruto's Jougan is almost unheard of. Even if he knew about some of what it could do, he still didn't know what Naruto could do with it, explained Shikamaru. There is a good chance that with Naruto as weak as he is right now, that Neji might have been able to counter or even break his jutsu. He won't make the mistake of underestimating Naruto again, and he'll be even more cautious around Sasuke because, not only was Sasuke Rookie of the Year, he's also Naruto's teammate. You two will have to be extra careful if you run into him again. But what about Sakura-chan? Asked Naruto. Shikamaru sighed. No matter how much she might have improved, Neji is still far above her level. It's a fair bet that of the 9 rookies participating in this exam, only Ino, you and Sasuke have a fair chance at beating him. What about Hinata? She's a good fighter too, Naruto inquired. As good as she might be, Neji is better. There's a reason why he is praised as the greatest Hyuga prodigy in many generations, answered Shikamaru. Just because someone is considered a genius doesn't mean they can't be beaten by someone who puts in a good amount of effort, countered Naruto. That may be so, but it's too troublesome to argue about it now, said Shikamaru. We need to get going. You guys may have both scrolls, but we still have to get our second one and make it to the tower. Naruto nodded. Thanks, Shikamaru. Hey! Naruto, Ino said hesitantly, what was that seal on your stomach? Each of the members of Team 7 tensed for a moment, which did not go unnoticed by Team 10. A containment seal, Naruto answered. Remember how Kabuto said I have huge chakra reserves? So that is the reason. That seal? Asked Ino. If that was true, how come more shinobi don't have one? Not exactly. Naruto said carefully. It was placed on me when I was born to help me regulate the chakra inside of me. If you have all that power, how come you could barely do those jutsus at the academy? Asked Choji. Because I was putting too much chakra into them. My chakra reserves are so large that I can't do the Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique, properly, and it prevents me from doing almost all genjutsu, answered Naruto truthfully. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, requires much more chakra and even less control, so it comes easily to me. Through all of this, Shikamaru was looking at Naruto speculatively. There was something missing, but he couldn't tell what. After all, a kid with that high of chakra capacity should have been trained much younger than Naruto had been to control it. To have that much chakra and not be able to control it was a disaster waiting to happen. Not to mention being the Yandame's son should have merited Naruto a small amount of leniency for his pranks, much like the Sandaime's grandson that idolizes Naruto, yet Naruto was often punished rather harshly for them at the academy. No, there was a piece missing. After all, up until a few minutes ago, he had thought Naruto an orphan with no parents. Speaking of which, the yandeme's name was Kazama Erasure, yet Naruto was an Uzumaki. "Naruto, how come your name is different?" asked Shikamaru. There was no mistaking the looks Team 7 gave each other. They were hiding something. This wasn't lost on Ino or Choji either, but thankfully they remained silent. Well, there was just so much destruction after the Kyuubi attacked, that they had no idea I was still alive. Naruto explained hesitantly, "My Ka-san died while giving birth to me during the attack, and so they figured I was just another nameless orphan." No one knew that he was married except Sandai Meiji-san and someone named Jiraiya. Kakashi-sensei didn't even realize I was the yandeme's son until I got my Kekkei Genkai and my Ota-san was his sensei. Naruto's face became uncharacteristically sad, so Team 10 decided it was best to forestall figuring out what they were hiding and why. It also wasn't lost on Shikamaru that Naruto had connections to some of Konoha's most powerful shinobi, as two of them were Kages, one a Sannin and the last was easily the most powerful and skilled jonin in the village. The fact that the Sandaime trained Jiraiya, who trained Yandeme, who trained Kakashi, who was now training Naruto, made him think that this wasn't something the Sandaime had done on chance. Despite Naruto's dismal grades and Sasuke's exceptional ones, Shikamaru couldn't help but think that the Sandaime had put them with Sharingan Kakashi for a specific reason. Sasuke was obvious, as he and Kakashi had two of the remaining 3 Sharingans left. Naruto, despite his lack of skills, was a legacy child. With Naruto's lack of skill and proper technique, Kakashi would be the best-suited trainer for Naruto considering his lineage. It was almost as if Naruto was born and being groomed to be Hokage. Shikamaru shook his head of those troublesome thoughts and the memories they invoked. Naruto's face then suddenly turned to a big grin. "But now I at least know something about my parents, and it's kind of neat that the person I looked up to more than anyone was my Two-san," he said excitedly. The sudden change of emotions even caught Sakura and Sasuke off guard at times, but since finding out about the Kyuubi they had begun to recognize the smile he currently wore as a mask to cover up for whatever weakness and insecurities he had. "If you think so highly of the yandeme, then why did you vandalize the monument just before graduation?" asked Shikamaru curiously. "Because..." Naruto's fake grin settled into a determined smirk. "I will become Hokage, and when I do, I'll surpass them all. The Shodaime, the Nidaime, Sandai Meiji-san, and Yandeme Tusama, they'll all be impressed with what I will become. I don't care if I'm Godaime or even Rokudaime, I'll surpass them and leave a lasting mark on Konoha so large that no one will forget who I am. I'll prove the village wrong, I'll show them exactly what I can do. I won't back down and I'll continue down my path to become Hokage. That's my Nindo." The conviction in Naruto's voice made each of them believe that he had no doubts that he'd accomplish his dreams. The fact he didn't shout it out loud like a moron helped convince them that he just might do it. The Ino Shikacho team stuck around for about an hour longer with Team 7. Mostly at Ino's behest as she fixed Sakura's hair. Naruto took the opportunity to get some much-needed rest before he, Sasuke and Sakura had to set out again. Choji and Shikamaru talked about inconsequential things as Sasuke reflected on the strange dream he had while the cursed seal took effect and what had happened when he finally woke up. He still couldn't believe the power and skill difference between himself and the Hibi Sannin. Even injured and only one arm he was able to take on and, nearly effortlessly, defeat the Uchiha prodigy and mark him with some strange mark on the back of his neck. Speaking of which, he was very amazed about how alive he felt. He was completely energized, if anything he was far stronger than before Orochimaru attacked. He looked over to Naruto. His rival and the closest thing he could call a best friend. He was looking much better now that he had been back on his feet for a short while. The Kyuubi seemed to be replenishing his strength, but its power seemed to be diminished. Remembering the seal, Sasuke noted the element symbols surrounding the main seal. They seemed oddly out of place with the intricate design of the seal that had appeared first on Naruto's stomach. No doubt the work of the Sannin. When they were ready to leave, Naruto would be fine, despite the fact he only had one usable arm. Sasuke then took a moment to study his other teammate, who was currently chatting away with her former best friend and main rival for his affections. He'd be lying if he said he didn't find either of them attractive, but good looks alone wouldn't get anyone anywhere. Sakura seemed to be finally learning that lesson, but Sasuke couldn't imagine what had happened after he and Naruto had fallen unconscious to change the girl's opinion. Still, Sakura had managed to watch over them for over 3 days with little to no sleep and managed to defend them until help arrived. He doubted that she could have done it before the wave mission, but he had to admit she had surpassed whatever little expectations he had for her. Now if she'd only lose the star-struck fangirl attitude around him, she wouldn't be half bad. He might even consider accepting one of her date invitations. Well, that might be getting too far ahead of himself. Sasuke realized they wouldn't be able to travel for very long in her condition. They'd have to vacate this area at the very least, and then they'd have to find a spot so Sakura, and perhaps Naruto, could rest a bit. Once Ino and Sakura were done, Choji and Shikamaru woke up Naruto, and the two teams bid their goodbyes after Naruto wished them luck. Currently, Team 7 was standing at the branch of a tall tree. Naruto had his eyes closed in concentration, his Jougan glowing fiercely. "There's no way we can make it. At least not tonight." He turned to face them, the glow subsiding. "What do you see?" asked Sakura. "There's that Team A whose scroll we took with a very complex genjutsu up. And there are a few others with various traps all around waiting to ambush some of the stragglers," Naruto told them. "We don't have the energy to fight our way through them all, and it would take too long to go around them in our current condition." "I suspected as much earlier," said Sasuke. "We might as well find someplace to camp. I'll take first watch." "Sakura-chan, don't worry about watching over us. You've done enough of that for the last 3 days, and you don't have demon inside of you to help you get back all that energy," said Naruto with such uncharacteristic seriousness that she thought it would be better not to argue. The next day, a more energized Team 7 made the trek the rest of the way to the tower. Sasuke had taken the first and last watch, while Naruto had taken the middle one, allowing Sakura to get nearly a full 16 hours of sleep. When she started to apologize, both Naruto and Sasuke waved it off, saying that she deserved it. She blushed furiously, having never been prouder of herself than ever before. Still, it took nearly a day and a half before they reached the tower in the center of the forest due to evading their opponents, something they wouldn't have been able to do without Naruto's Jougan, because even then there were a few close calls. They quickly found the door they were assigned to report to when they arrived, and not a moment too soon, as their time limit was soon coming to a close. "Finally, made it," Naruto said excitedly and relieved as he opened the door. They appeared into an empty room, with catwalks on either side and a plaque on the wall with an odd inscription. "So, now what?" He looked at Sasuke and Sakura expectantly, closing his Jougan for the time being. "What are you asking us for, Dobe?" asked Sasuke. "Well, you guys are the smart ones, so I figured you might have some idea of what we're supposed to do," Naruto said somewhat awkwardly, scratching the back of his head with his left hand. "Well, perhaps we should check out the inscription on the wall," suggested Sakura. "If you do not possess heaven, gain knowledge and be prepared. If you do not possess earth, run through fields and gain strength. If you possess both heaven and earth, dangerous paths become safe paths. This is the secret of. It shall lead you on your way." Sakura thought on it for a moment. "There's a blank spot. Do you suppose it's some sort of riddle?" "I don't get it at all," Naruto commented, his face filled with confusion. Sakura turned to Sasuke. "Perhaps it has something to do with the scrolls? It might be telling us we can open them now." "Well, it's not like we can do much else," Sasuke conceded. He looked to Naruto, who pulled out their heaven scroll and handed it to Sakura while he himself pulled out their earth scroll. "Ready?" Naruto asked as he watched Sasuke begin to peel away at the seal, waiting for Sakura to do the same. Sakura visibly gulped and her hand shook slightly as she began to mimic Sasuke's actions. Naruto gripped the Shuriken no Rijin tightly, hoping to not have to step in should anything happen. When they opened the scrolls, they could only look at them in confusion. It suddenly came to Sasuke what they were. Sakura, drop the scroll. These are summoning scrolls. He warned her as he threw the scroll away. She froze at the suddenness of the order and Naruto had to grab the scroll from her hands and throw it towards Sasuke's. There was a small explosion of smoke. Naruto gasped when he activated the Jougan to see through the smoke. Sasuke and Sakura remained on guard, tensing when they heard Naruto. "Irika-sensei. Thank goodness. I had hoped to be the one summoned here when you guys arrived," said Irika relieved, until he noticed Naruto's arm. "Naruto, what happened to your arm?" Naruto gave him a wide grin. "Don't worry about it, Irika-sensei. It's just a side effect of a new jutsu I used during the second exam." "You mean the one that sent a good deal of our ninja force into a panic?" asked Irika. "Even some of the villagers could feel the power of that jutsu." Naruto scratched the back of his head awkwardly. "Sorry." Naruto half asked, half apologized. He at least had the dignity to look sheepish. "No matter, I'm glad you three are alright," said Irika relieved. "Sandaime-sama is waiting to speak with you as you still have another 4 hours before the second exam is completed." Irika then led Kakashi's Team 7 through various corridors until they came to a set of double doors with Umbu guards stationed there. "Team 7, reporting," said Irika. The Umbu nodded and opened the door revealing various names the trip recognized and a few they didn't. Of the ones they recognized were the Sandaime, Kakashi, Ibiki, Anko, Kurenai, Asuma, Hayate, and Guy. The ones they didn't was a Jonin with a large scar on his face, a Senbon chewing Jonin, one with sunglasses. Also in attendance were the clan heads comprising of Hyuga Hayashi, Aburame Shibi, Inazuka Tsume, Yamanaka Inoichi, Nara Shikaku, and Akimichi Chuza. Though Team 7 didn't know it, they'd all been informed of Naruto's status as the Yandere Hokage's son. Many were still skeptical, but they were somewhat willing to give Kakashi and Sarutobi the benefit of the doubt. "They're here at last," Sandaime commented. "We were afraid more misfortune may have befallen you after your run-in with Orochimaru and his Otonin." "How?" Sakura began to question before being cut off by Kakashi. "Team 10 arrived late last night and reported you guys ran into some trouble," he said. "One thing first, Aji-san," said Naruto with a serious expression on his face. "Is SG trustworthy?" He indicated Anko. "What the hell do you mean by that, Gaki?" Anko shouted angrily. She was taken aback when Naruto's Jougan flared. Many others in the room did as well at the flash of the suddenly wide-open third eye that was glowing with power. He also solidified his own status, not that he knew nor would have even cared if he had. "I can sometimes sense things that others can't," said Naruto firmly. "I first felt it when you introduced yourself after the first exam. Your chakra is tainted. It's weak, but it still isn't pure. It was the same feeling I got from that Kusanin that ran up on us that I should have ran through with my blade, as it turned out that he was really Orochimaru." Anko instinctively touched the back of her neck, a reflex not lost on anyone. "It's that same taint I can sense in Sasuke now, only his is stronger." It went unnoticed only by Naruto, the glare Sasuke shot at Naruto at the mention of the cursed seal. "There are few I would trust more," Naruto assured Sandaime. Naruto nodded in acceptance. Anko-san. Right? What did Orochimaru do to Sasuke-kun?" asked Sakura hesitantly. "It's called the Ten no Juin, a forbidden jutsu that was the result of extensive experimentation by my former student, Orochimaru. To date, that we know of, only 11 people have ever received the cursed seal. Of those 11, only Anko and Sasuke have ever survived the process," answered Sandaime as Anko was in a sort of daze being comforted by Kurenai. "We're not fully aware of what it can do, as Anko's has never activated, but we have some ideas." "So what are we going to do?" asked Anko. "We're going to continue the Chunin exams as planned and continue to allow Sasuke to compete, if he is up to it," said Sandaime. "But we can't," stuttered Anko in defiance. "I've had my final say on the matter, Anko," the Sandaime said sternly, but not unkindly. "Very well, Hokage-sama," she replied in a forced tone. However, Sasuke, if you decide to continue competing, warned Kakashi in a lazy voice, you are not to draw power upon the seal no matter what. The very second you do, all of the attending jonins have been ordered to act accordingly. You will be knocked conscious immediately and you will forfeit the match. Sasuke nodded and grunted in acceptance, relieved that he would continue on with the exams. Immediately, after your match, you will accompany me to do something about that seal, said Kakashi. I'd do it now because the entire procedure itself takes little time, but you will more than likely be unconscious for, at minimum, 18 or so hours. Sasuke nodded again. Aji-san, Hibitame also did something to my seal. Everyone tensed up when Naruto said this. They already know about it. He glared at most of the room before anyone spoke up, none of them visibly relaxed. After all, they all knew what the "it" was that he was referring to. Sandaime frowned. What happened? He asked, unsure of how he'd like the answer. I'm not sure, but it's the biggest reason why I was knocked out from chakra exhaustion for 3 days. Whatever he did, it's completely messing up my chakra control, he said. Can you show us? Asked Sandaime. Using a one-handed ram seal, Naruto channeled as much chakra as possible. First appeared the Yandame's Shiki Fujin, dead demon-consuming seal, that was placed on Naruto at birth, and then came Orochimaru's Gogyo Fuin. It's crude, but I suppose it would be since it was done in haste and probably when he was suffering from the pain of your jutsu, Naruto, said the Sandaime. While it may not be up to Orochimaru's standard of perfection, only 4 people, that I know of, would be able to undo this seal. Only 3 of them would actually do it for you, as Orochimaru was the 4th. Luckily for you, 2 of them are in this room. The Sandaime looked over at Kakashi. The seal I have in mind for Sasuke is quite taxing on both the sealer and the one having the seal placed on him. It would delay sealing Orochimaru's Ten no Juin, and we can't risk Sasuke experiencing the seal's more interesting side effects. Kakashi informed the Sandaime. Very well, Kakashi. Now, Naruto, hold still. This might sting a bit, the Hokage said, still studying the supplemental seal. He did a few hand seals, Gogyo Kaien, 5 elements unseal. The tips of his fingers started glowing with a yellow flame. He then thrust his palm into Naruto's stomach. The element seals on Naruto's stomach then started to glow purple, then yellow, and finally started to fade. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt a rush of chakra inside of him and fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Sandaime sighed. For all of his researching habits, Jiraiya was always much better with seals than I ever was. Had he been available to do it, you would have probably not have felt the sudden rush of fatigue you are currently experiencing. His talent for sealing was only surpassed by your father. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were all confused while Enko, Kurenai, and Tsume were glaring at the Hokage and radiating killing intent at the mention of the Gamma Senin's research. The scene was ruined by the slightly disturbing sound of Kakashi giggling before suddenly straightening up and, for once, putting his orange book away. Now, Naruto, about your arm. Are you still able to compete? Asked Sandaime. Naruto glared at the Hokage in a similar fashion that Sasuke had at himself earlier. Sakura, meanwhile, was grumbling about stubborn idiot boys. I'm fine, I'm more than ready to take the Hibitame on again if I have to, he boldly announced. I'm completely fine and able to fight. Naruto, just because you can, doesn't mean you necessarily should, said Kakashi as he found himself at the end of Naruto's glare. I'm fine, Naruto insisted. Very well, Naruto, said Sandaime resignedly, you may very well continue. Kakashi, escort your Genins to the others, we have just another 2 hours before the start of the next phase of the Chunin exams. Kakashi nodded and then led his team to where the rest of the Genins who had passed the second exam were congregating. In attendance were Kurenai and Asuma's teams 8 and 10, respectively, as well as Madogai's team. Kabuto's team, they noticed, also had made it, as well as the Oto team, and the Suna team. Naruto and Neji eyed each other coolly, as Team 7 approached. A sudden spike of killing intent made Naruto turn his attention towards Gaara, who was looking at the blonde in anticipation of fighting him. Boy, Naruto, you're making friends everywhere, stated Kiba sarcastically. Now, Naruto had his Jougan closed, making it look like a slit on his forehead. What happened to you guys? You look like you've been through hell. Looking at each other, Team 7 realized Kiba was right. Naruto looked like he had a cut on his forehead, as well as a few scrapes and bruises from his confrontation with Orochimaru, as well as a scorched right arm. Like Naruto, Sasuke was covered with cuts and bruises and his clothes slightly torn. Unlike Naruto, he still had his shirt on. Sakura, while looking much better than she had, still had many bruises all over her arm and face, and her right eye was still slightly swollen from the confrontation with the Otonin. Naruto-kun. Hinata stuttered quietly, if you like. I have some medical ointment for you. She looked away from and started pressing her fingers together, and your team. She added hastily, while blushing wildly. Niji's eyes narrowed slightly at Hinata's show of weakness, while Tenten found it cute. Both Ino and Sakura were torn on whether they should be aggravated or amused by Naruto's obliviousness. Sure thing, Hinata-chan, said Naruto gratefully while giving her a big grin. Hinata just turned redder as she handed him the small jar. She then fainted as soon as he thanked her by putting his arm around her shoulders. In typical Naruto fashion, he did the one thing he could do. He panicked. Hinata! He shouted, checking her pulse and temperature. I didn't do anything, I swear. What's wrong with her? He yelled, damn it. Where are the mednines? Hinata needs help. Naruto, Hinata will be fine, said the normally silent Sachino. Kiba, meanwhile, was holding down fits of laughter, as were many others. Even Shikamaru and Sasuke had small smile of amusement. Naruto was holding her still, when she awoke. She slowly opened her eyes, and upon seeing Naruto's face she dreamily smiled and whispered, Naruto-kun. Naruto's eyes widened, Hinata. You're alright, he shouted in relief. His face turned from relief to horror as Hinata realized where she was and turned bright red again, and promptly fainted, again. Hinata! Naruto shouted before turning to Sachino, I thought you said she was alright. Something serious could be wrong with her. I assure you it is nothing serious, said Sachino reassuringly. Kiba couldn't hold it in anymore and started laughing. What's so funny, Inutame? Naruto glared at the boy. Hinata could be seriously injured, or sick, or... Naruto, Sachino interrupted firmly, she just needs some air. We'll set her over there and give her some space while she recovers. I assure you it is nothing serious, she will be fine. Naruto finally conceded and he and Kiba placed Hinata up against the nearby wall. The time passed rather quickly and after a few minutes Hinata regained consciousness. However, she would not look at Naruto and turned bright red whenever he spoke to her. The memory of being in a shirtless Naruto's arms was enough to nearly make her lose consciousness yet again. As it was, she nearly collapsed at the memory and her stutter got significantly worse whenever she was around him, and his concern over her condition was not doing her any favors. Naruto was repeatedly confused by this and gave up trying to understanding it, labeling it as some sort of girl thing. As the time slowly drew to a close, the Jonins and various exam proctors appeared in the room. Each of the remaining teams stood in a line in front of their respective sensei as the Sandaime explained the purpose of the Chunin selection exams and their role in politics of the elemental countries. He was beginning to explain the third exam when he was cut off by the proctor, a Jonin named Yamashiro Aoba, who explained that they were going to have a preliminary round before the actual third exam. The third exam was to consist of single one-on-one combat, and he offered anyone who did not wish to participate to quit. Only Kabuto did, stating he had been ambushed by a group of Ainins during the exam and he wasn't fully recovered, although he looked barely hurt at all. Team 7 had the dignity of looking a bit sheepish, though no one other than themselves knew exactly why. Sakura had really hoped either Naruto or Sasuke would have quit as well, but neither had. Before they knew it, the first match was up. Uchiha Sasuke vs Tenten. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.